Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. The taxpayer-funded student debt cancellation plan is now open for applications. What Biden says about it today and what a new poll tells us about voters' top priorities. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more.
Today, I'm announcing how millions of people, working and middle-class folks, can apply get this relief, and it's simple and it's now. It's easy, it's fast.
President Biden is touting his student loan cancellation program, which is now open for applications. More than 40 million Americans can now apply online to have up to $20,000 in debt wiped out by the federal government.
This is a game changer for millions of Americans. We get moving.
The application is short and simple, requiring little more than the applicant's contact info and social security number. And Biden says over 8 million people have already applied after the site opened up last Friday.
It means more than 8 million Americans are starting this week on their way to receiving a life-changing relief that they're looking for.
Republicans have criticized Biden's student loan relief plan as inflationary and unfair to those who worked hard to finish paying back their debt. According to the Congressional Budget Office, Biden's handout program will cost roughly $400 billion. That exceeds the savings touted by Democrats and Biden in the Inflation Reduction Act. All of this as Republican backlash is growing over Biden's remarks over the weekend when he said,
"Our economy is strong as hell."
Senator Marsha Blackburn on Monday called Biden out of touch, and Representative Adrian Smith calls him a storyteller, saying the economy under Biden is
absolutely cruel to the middle class and folks who can afford it the least.
The White House on Monday defended Biden.
He has done the work, and he's done the work with congressional Democrats when you think about the Inflation Reduction Act.
But it's another question if voters agree. A New York Times and Siena College poll released on Monday shows a majority of voters put the economy and inflation as their top concerns. And those most concerned with the economy, the poll says, favored Republicans overwhelmingly. Reporting Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
Andy Puzder is the former CEO of CKE Restaurants, the company that oversees fast food chain Hardee's and Carl's Jr. Andy offers a unique perspective into the historic inflation we're currently experiencing, and we're happy to have him on to discuss. Andy Puzder, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
Andy, the president has just said the pain that we're seeing in the economy right now and that we're feeling is due to international factors. Is that the case, or is there something we could be doing to change the current trajectory?
Well, if you listen to people speaking from the international community, particularly the international financial community, they would all tell you that the problem is that the world currency is the dollar, and that the dollar is strengthened incredibly because of the Fed needing to increase interest rates to drive demand down so we could address the issue of inflation in the United States. So as the world's largest economy and as the world's currency, what happens in the United States makes a lot more difference apparently than President Biden wants to acknowledge. Now, our economy is driving the problems we're having internationally. Now, the Ukraine certainly isn't helping, but things like the shortage of oil and natural gas is obviously due to domestic policy. So the United States bears a lot of responsibility here, and the president ought to just fess up to it and try and find solutions to the problems instead of denying that they exist and going out and getting ice cream.
Economist Stephen Moore and E.J. Antoni just penned an article in the New York Post stating the average American has lost $34,000 since the economy started to shift. Are folks getting that we're preparing to retire having to reconsider?
Yes, they are. And I think the American people understand this. They're obviously, if you look at the polling, they're going to react to what's going on in the economy come the next election. And James Carville said back in 1992 when President Clinton was running for office, he made the motto of that campaign, the campaign slogan, it's the economy, stupid. And in this case, it clearly is the economy. It's going to affect people that are retiring, but it's affecting young people as well. This is an economy where people can't afford to drive like they're used to driving. They can't afford to eat like they're used to eating. These kinds of things are important. You can't feed your family or take them where you want to take them when you want to take them. In the United States, that that says that something different's going on, and I think people are upset with where we are today.
Speaking of eating, everyone loves Hardee's and Carl's Jr. You were the CEO of CKE Restaurants. What effect does this type of inflation that we're seeing have on the restaurant industry?
Well, it depends upon the sector. If you're a high-end restaurant chain, you're probably going to lose some business. But people may trade down to the quick service, less expensive restaurant chains. Companies in the middle, like for example, at Chili's or at TGI Fridays. These are the kinds of restaurant chains that will also lose business as people trade down to quick service. So it depends on what sector you're in. The big problem for the quick service sector, which is generally less expensive and something people would gravitate to when there's economic difficulties. The problem is they're having a hard time hiring people to come in and work in the restaurant, so they're not open the hours they'd like to be, and they're not providing the kind of service they'd like to provide. And commodity costs are way up. So even the quick service restaurant chains aren't all that inexpensive anymore. You go into even a Taco Bell or a Kentucky Fried Chicken, some of the lower end in the quick service sector, and even a meal there becomes expensive because proteins are expensive. Everything's up. Delivering, energy costs being up, that raises delivery costs, and that affects the cost of every product you buy, no matter the store, no matter the restaurant. You're going to be hit by this inflation, and restaurants are getting hit like everybody else.
So true. Andy Puzder, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
The U.S. Justice Department is asking a federal judge to sentence former Trump advisor Steve Bannon to 6 months in prison. In July, Bannon initially refused to testify before the January 6th committee. He later agreed but did not provide any of the sought-after documents, such as his financial records. A D.C. federal court then sentenced Bannon on 2 counts of contempt of Congress for defying the subpoena. Prosecutors said today that Bannon has refused to produce a single document for the January 6th committee. This has led them to recommend the maximum prison sentence in the possible range, and prosecutors are also asking that Bannon get the maximum fine of $200,000. They say it's based on his refusal to cooperate with the pre-sentencing financial investigation. Over in Georgia today, early voting is open, and Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock cast his ballot. He had a debate with his challenger, Republican Herschel Walker, last Friday.
I'm a Christian. I believe in life. And I tell people this, Georgia is a state that respects life, and I'll be a senator that protects life.
Extremist Supreme Court. And I stand where I've said I stand in the past, that a patient's room is too narrow and small and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, and the United States government.
The state has several critical races this November. Apart from the race for U.S. Senate, voters will also choose between Republican Governor Brian Kemp and his Democratic challenger Stacey Abrams. Early voting in Georgia ends on the Friday prior to Election Day, which is November 4th. Early in-person voting has begun in about 15 states, plus a few counties, though in some states it is counted as an absentee ballot. Former President Trump is speaking out on the race for New York governor in the November elections. He's endorsing Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin to become the next governor of New York. Trump is telling voters to vote for the Long Island congressman. He wrote on Truth Social on Sunday, quote, "I've watched and known Congressman Lee Zeldin for many years. He is a great and brilliant lawyer who was a must-see for others in Congress when they had a complex legal problem that was holding up legislation. He will be a great governor of New York and has my complete and total endorsement." Zeldin is running against Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul, who is seeking her first full term. According to Real Clear Politics, Hochul's lead has shrunk to about 5 percentage points. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has been widely criticized for sending 50 illegal migrants to Martha's Vineyard. But a mainstream poll shows he's still a favored politician in the United States. NTD's Arlene Richards reports.
Last month, when Florida Governor Ron DeSantis paid to fly 50 illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, critics accused him of lying to the incomers and treating them badly.
So when Biden is flying these people all over the fruited plain in the middle of the night, I didn't hear a peep out of those people, okay?
But a poll released by Statista Research Department a few weeks ago showed that DeSantis had a high net approval rating among Americans. And a new mainstream poll shows he's still a well-liked politician. The poll, conducted by Harvard, Capps, and Harris on October 12 and 13, asked online respondents in the U.S. to rate top political figures. The poll showed DeSantis had the highest net approval rating among major American politicians. The net approval is calculated by subtracting the unfavorable views from the favorable views. 39% of the poll respondents favored DeSantis, while 33% didn't. This resulted in a +6 approval rating. Former Vice President Mike Pence came in second with a +4 rating. Top political rivals have praised DeSantis for his recent handling of Hurricane Ian, including President Biden.
What the governor's done is pretty remarkable.
Other notable results from the poll include GOP approval has risen 4 points in the last 4 months, now at 49%. Democratic Party approval has plateaued after rising, now at 46%. And inflation, the economy, and immigration dominate as top issues facing the country. Arlene Richards, NTD News, New York.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.